It's Tanya Bridge Malone back with another YouTube video. So how y'all doing today? Well, my work called me and asked me to come in early today, but they told me to come in at 2 o'clock, but I'm already scheduled 2 to 10. I wasn't coming in any earlier than that. You know, we have a lot of trouble keeping people. They've took somebody who was supposed to have been an assistant manager and demoted them. They told him he was going to get the job for 2 months, and then all of a sudden he had to go back to the meat section, so they took another person out of the deli. And they hired somebody to replace him, but the guy didn't show up for orientation, so I'm figuring that he ain't going to start work. So basically they took help away from us just to turn around and give the position, the assistant manager, whatever the position was, to another person in the deli. And it's like, yeah, it's something else the way this place operates. It really is. So anyway, they took somebody from us and then put them back in the meat section. I don't know, it's just, and that man was going through so much anyway. I just feel so sorry for him, I really do. He's been through so much in his life, and it's just, everybody's got a story, y'all. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's battling something, man. Everybody's battling something in their life. They're going through a struggle of some sort or another, because none of us are perfect. We live in a fallen world, and many things happen to a lot of people that we don't even realize what's going on in somebody's home life. We just never know. And I believe that God guided me to be an open ear to people, because a lot of times people won't listen to people. They just, they just throw their innuendos through the windows, but they don't know what that person went through. They don't care to hear their story. Here's what I say. When somebody asks you how you're doing, if you told them the truth and you were battling something, a lot of times people don't even want to listen to you. They just want to say, well, I got to go, You don't care. So if you ask somebody how they're doing and they tell you the truth, that they're going through a struggle and they need somebody to listen to them, and you're not willing to listen to them, that shows me you ain't got much of a character. You have many character flaws when you can't even be an open ear to listen and be sympathetic to people who's going through a hardship. This is how we know who's for us and who's not for us. This is why a lot of times, like, if you don't really want to know how somebody's day is going, then don't even bother to ask if you're not willing to listen to their truth. It's like a slap in the face, as if that person, that's the reason why a lot of people suppress their emotions, because they feel like nobody understands them. And then when somebody asks them how they're doing, and they need somebody to desperately talk to, because maybe they don't have a family member or a friend that they can confide in, or maybe they're not going to a counselor and they need somebody who's sympathetic, who can understand what they're going through. Maybe even if you haven't been through the similar circumstance and that they're telling you of, be sympathetic and picture yourself in their shoes. What would you do? Many of us don't try to picture ourselves walking in somebody else's shoes, even if we weren't dealt the same hand. So this is why I speak of Christ's holy land. Christ is grand. When you don't have Christ in your heart, you don't know which way to go. But when you accept Christ into your life, He can guide you in a lot of ways. I'll be honest, there's a lot of days I feel alone. I don't have one friend that calls me on the phone to see how I'm doing. I got one girl I go to church with. Every once in a while, she'll send me a message, let me know what's going on in the church and stuff, if I want to attend. But my thing is, I'm not always off on them days that they have church. They have church on Wednesdays and Sundays for the most part, and I'm not off on them days unless I decide to request those days off. But I decide not to, because I know they're low on help anyway. So if I say I'm not going to work a Sunday, they're already short on people. That's why they called me to come in early today. But he didn't tell me to come in before 2 o'clock. But I'm thinking I'm scheduled to work 2 to 10, and they wanted to see if I wanted to. I finally called them once I got up at after 12 o'clock on my way to work, because I come into work an hour and a half, 2 hours early anyway. I'm not working past my 8 hours. I ain't worried about the overtime hours. Like, you all have already got me scheduled 40 hours, so you're not going to give me any overtime. It's like the other day, they called this one dude in 2 hours early. He was scheduled 3 to 11, but he came in at 1. And he thought the way they told him, if he came in early, which is a manipulating bullshit, because they told him he could work an hour over to try to get stuff done and get the chicken side cleaned up, because the dishwasher over there needs fixed and it's been bad for 2 years. So they have to wash everything by hand and clean and take those machines apart to clean them out. And it takes 2.5 to 3 hours to do all that. And this man came in 2 hours early thinking that they led him to believe that they would pay him overtime if he had to stay past the 8-hour shift to get things cleaned up. Well, guess what happened? When 8:50 turned around, they told him he couldn't stay over, so I had to go over there. I had to clean my whole side of the deli, plus I had to clean the floors and do a few things on the chicken side because I was scheduled till 11. Because they seen I'm getting my shit done by 10 o'clock, so then they throw more shit off on me to do. But it wasn't that boy's fault. That was their fault for not having enough people scheduled on the schedule to do what needs to be done. When management has already told me that they are short on people in every department. They don't have enough people to do the workload. Now, why are you going to manipulate a man and tell him he can have overtime when you tell him to come in 2 hours, then you make him leave at 9 o'clock? That's 8 hours, 1 to 9. They led him to believe otherwise so he would come in and work. Because this man lives on his own, so he could have used the overtime money. But if you're scheduled 40 hours, they're not going to let you. They're cracking down on giving people more than 40 hours. If you're already scheduled 40 hours, how are they going to give you overtime? They're not. It's just a manipulative plot to get you to come in early. Then at the end of the night, the person who's closing on the deli has to do both sides when it comes to some of the cleaning because they don't have nobody scheduled. How is this place for the worker? You tell me what's what. I speak my truth on this channel. I don't hold nothing back. I don't need somebody in the back seat telling me how to live my life because Christ tells me how to live my life. But people are very manipulative. Why would you call it? You tell me right now, I'm setting boundaries in my life. Christ is the number one foundry of my life. Let me tell you right now, think about it. Somebody was scheduled 3 to 11 and you call them and tell them that if they come in 2 hours early, you will give them overtime if they have to stay past their 8-hour shift to get things cleaned up and get it closed up. Then when the time comes, you tell them they're already scheduled 40 hours, so they knew this. They knew he was scheduled 40 hours already. So in retail and in certain places, they don't want you getting over 40 hours. You're lucky, you're very fortunate. I'm not going to say luck because I don't believe in luck. But you're fortunate if you are scheduled 40 hours every week. But here's the innuendo. Here's the manipulating tactic that they used to get him to come in 2 hours early by telling him that if he did, he could stay over if he had to get things done. When it came down to it, he was not allowed to stay past the 8-hour shift. That was only their manipulative tactic to get him to come in 2 hours early. Ikashikari. Now you tell me how they run a business and they do these shitty ass things by not hiring enough people. How toxic is it? Think about it. I will speak out about toxic workplace environments. Am I fortunate to have a job? Yes, I am. But I will call out the bullshit. Because I am not trying to cuss and I'm very sorry. I know that I cuss, but I am not holier than thou. I'm not better than anybody. But what I am telling you is that they used a manipulative tactic of telling him he could stay over if he needed to and he could get overtime as a manipulative tactic to get him to come in 2 hours early. It did not work because guess what? At the end of the night, they waited to the end of the night to tell him that he couldn't stay past his 40 hours, which that's common sense. If he would have used common sense, but sometimes common sense ain't so common in this world, it's not. Many people have a lot of things on their mind and some things are overwhelming for people. Everybody is battling something. So what I am saying is they used that overtime manipulative tactic to lie to him to get him to come in 2 hours early. He was not allowed to get overtime. He had to leave. Now, there was a guy in the deli that was told he had an assistant manager job that he told him that he would have, that he'd been doing for 2 months. Then they turned around, took the job, told him he wasn't going to get the job, and gave it to somebody else in the deli, and took the person out of the deli who was trained in the deli and the chicken side. And they took him and put him back in the meat department and gave it to another man who worked in the deli and the chicken. Okay, So they took a worker away from us, went to hire one to replace the one that they put back in the meat department, to replace them in the deli, just to turn around and the employee that they hired did not show up for orientation. How demeaning is it? How toxic is it for a workplace environment to do that to such a person? Then you want people, then you lie and manipulate to people, telling them they can get overtime just to turn around at the end of their shift and tell them that they cannot stay over to get any overtime because they're already scheduled for 40 hours. You cannot get no overtime in places like this. If you have not been scheduled for 40 hours, then yes, nothing is overtime unless it is past 40 hours. This is common sense, but sometimes we don't use common sense. But they misconstrued, manipulated, and lied, and now that they got rid, and now that they took a worker away from us, that they attempted to try to hire another one who never showed up, with that falls back on them. If you reap what you sow, you reap what you sow. What you do to people will come back to you tenfold. If you do not do what is right in life, you reap what you sow. It says it in the Bible. The Bible tells you so. So now they're trying to manipulate people to come in early just so they don't have no coverage. But is that not the toxic workplace environment? You tell me. You take somebody who you told could have that position for 2 months and then take it away from him behind his back, plotting the scenes. And your reason is, well, he wasn't quick enough. Yeah, you tell me. You tell me what's toxic. You tell me the manipulative tactics. They can't manipulate me. I didn't come in early. When they said that I needed to come in at 2 o'clock, I was already scheduled from 2 to 10. So what sense did that make? If you wanted me to come in early, you should have said you want me to come in at 1 or some other time. You said to come in and work 2 to 10. I'm already scheduled 2 to 10, you dumbass. Get real. They don't know what's going on. I was already scheduled to work 2 to 10. What is she key at a yay? But they see I can see past their innuendos. I don't have to come in here and work past my time. No, I do not. If you schedule me 2 to 10, I'm closing shop up at 9 o'clock, which is what they should be working anyway. We hardly have anybody come through the deli past 9 o'clock at night. They should close it up at 9 o'clock so I can be out of here by 10, and then I can get my 40 hours in because I'm a good worker, so I don't stand around when we don't have people. I'm cleaning. But yet I get more work thrown off of me, but no raise to come with it. Now you tell me who's manipulating who, and then wonder why your worker didn't show up to orientation after you did that man the way you did to him. You reaped what you sowed. You took away from something. You tooketh away what you said you was giving him and put him back in a different department and took somebody out of our department and then chose to hire somebody in his place. But they didn't show up for orientation. I wonder why he didn't show up. If you reap what you sow, then that's how it is. But does the company look at themselves and take any accountability for the role they played in the way they manipulated somebody out of a job who lived on their own, who was battling many things but chose to take a job away from him? That is not how you want to play on the devil's playground. But a shikari, when you play on the devil's playground and you plot and you manipulate people in toxic workplace environments, it will come back to bite you in the ass. Because in the Bible it says you reap what you sow. You don't have to hold a grudge. People will get what's coming to them because they reap what they sow. You're either sowing evil deeds or you're planting fruitful seeds. Which way are we going? We don't know unless we take a closer look inside of our workplace environments to see how people are being done. I call out the bullshit. Peace, love, and y'all be blessed.